Welcome back. Taking your calls on the Borders and Borders hotline. 412-575-2600 is the number. Also taking your tweets at Josh Taylor HD. Talking Steelers, talking Penguins, maybe even talking a little bit of soccer. If you want to talk about that, U.S. men's national team for the first time since 1986 is not qualifying for the World Cup. So we can talk about that as well. Let's go to the phone lines. We will start with David in the South Side. David, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I heard what Ben has said today about him being one of the greatest, I guess, quarterbacks that ever played the game. Oh, that sounds good, but, you know, where I was raised at, talk is cheap. And also, the Steelers are 3-2.
That's the reality.
They need to get down to the basics. They need to start concentrating on what has worked for them in the past. They need to, the defense need to stop acting like they got two left hands, can't tackle nobody. I mean, I think basically they don't have the basic fundamental of the game anymore.
All right, well, thanks for the...
You know, and by the way, they're 3-2, and I still think they're going to make the playoffs.
They're going to win a terrible division.
This game coming up this week is a barometer.
All right, I got to let you go because we're a 25-minute show, so we got to keep it short. To hit every point that you're talking about here, you had me up until you mentioned the defense. If you take out the 2 pick sixes, defense gave up, what, 16, 17 points? Any coach is going to take 17 points allowed in the game. No questions asked. That's the first thing I'm going to throw out there. You have 2 touchdowns in that game that were not the defense's fault. I'll also throw something in there as far as the defense is concerned. That first pick 6 came after the defense got a stop. And the second pick 6 came almost right after it. So you're looking at a situation where the defense having to go back out onto the field again. And bear in mind, Ben Roethlisberger threw a pick in the first quarter on his own side of the field. So the defense had to go in and defend that, which turned into a Leonard Fournette touchdown. So when you have your defense starting on your side of the field with the other team with the ball after you gave it to them, and then the other team scores 2 touchdowns because you gave them the ball and they ran it back, it's hard for me to blame the defense when, honestly, 3 of those touchdowns I'm not putting on the defense. That's just how I feel about that. Let's go to Freddie in Pittsburgh. Freddie, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, it's Frank, I think.
Oh, Frank? I'm sorry, Frank. Thanks for calling anyway. What you got for me?
Yeah, hey, you know what? I'm tired of hearing about Kansas City. Yeah, they got a good record.
They're 5-0. That's hard to ignore.
Yeah, they are. I think we had a lot of controversy going on with Ben and AB and all that, and Bell holding that. We got a heck of a team. And I think there's a lot of, trash going on through maybe the team. I think it's time Mike Tomlin pulls his dang team together, throw all the crap that's been going on out, and let's play some football with some heart. It's a good team. Who's Ben? All of a sudden, Ben's got problems. He's probably had an attitude the last game. But I think you get him pumped up and the rest of them, we can beat them with no problem. I really mean that. Who would you rather have, Ben or the quarterback for Kansas City? Seriously.
Believe it or not, thank you for the call. I have been asked questions, if Ben Roethlisberger were to retire at the end of the season, how I would feel about Alex Smith playing for this team. You think it sounds like a crazy thought, but people are already asking me. They've asked me on the radio. They've asked me on Twitter. By the way, 7 to 10, Sunday mornings, 93.7 The Fan. But they've asked me on Twitter. I've gotten that question before. So it may not be as ridiculous as you think. And for the record, yes, this is a talented team on paper, but they're 3-2. And their 2 losses are to Chicago in overtime and to Jacksonville at home. If I told you that would happen before the season started, that 2 of their first 5 games will be losses to Chicago and Jacksonville, you would laugh me out of this studio. That's the reality that this team faces. I remember being called the Doctor of Doom after week 1 because this team squeaked past Cleveland after getting outscored by a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback. And then this team goes out and lays this egg against Jacksonville at home. Pulling it together, getting them pumped up, clearly that's not working. Clearly figuring out what worked for them before in the past isn't working. Because guess what? They've tried some of the things that worked in the past in that game, and they still didn't work. Here's the thing. How about the players that are supposed to perform and deliver in the moments when they're expected to, how about they just deliver? Sometimes it's really that simple. Let's go to Ken in Clearfield. Ken, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, Josh, hi. We love the show.
Appreciate you.
Hey, I was great to see the Penguins hit the White House today. I'm not a big Donald Trump fan at all, but he was very appreciative that the Penguins were there, and I gained a lot of respect for him for that today. And hopefully they'll get back there again next year. I love the show. What's your opinion on that? Thank you.
Appreciate the call. Here's how I look at the Penguin situation visiting the White House, and here's what I'll tell you. They have made visits to 4 different presidents now in their history when winning a Stanley Cup. They visited Donald Trump. They have visited, I believe it was Bill Clinton. They have visited George H.W. Bush, and they visited Barack Obama twice. I find it hard to believe that everybody on those previous 4 teams probably agreed with everything those 4 presidents stood for politically, or those 3 presidents stood for politically. Call it a shot in the dark. So to expect it to happen this time around, given the climate in the country, and I know tensions are high, and I know partisanship is probably as crazy as it's ever been, to expect that to change now, because this president might be a lot less popular than the 3 previous ones I just mentioned, or maybe in some cases a little bit less, depending on how your sliding scale works, it's not realistic. It's not realistic, and it's probably not very responsible. And that's really just coming from a person who's seen a lot of these teams and seen each of these teams that's won the Stanley Cup over the years and remembers these visits to the White House. I don't remember it being a big deal then. And there were some things that I'm sure people disagreed with George H.W. Bush. I'm sure there's some things that people disagreed with President Clinton, and I'm sure there's some things that people disagree with President Obama. If you're going to use that as a barometer, then, hey, it's well within your right not to go. This team in particular, they still consider it an honor to be there. They still consider it a tradition to be there. And honestly, as far as the juxtaposition goes with this team versus what's going on in the NFL and what's going on in the NBA, I hold this team completely separate from all of that. They're being dragged into something that they probably do not belong in. So I personally have no problem with it. Let's go to Twitter for a second. Let's go to Andy. He says, does it not seem like the Steelers are usually 4-3 and then go on a run to end the season? Interested to see it like in previous years. That's a good point. We've seen that happen before where this team has its backs against the wall. I believe the team that won Super Bowl 40, I believe they were, 6-5 maybe, that won so many games in a row to get a wild card spot and go on and win the Super Bowl. So there are situations like that with this team. That's definitely not an unfamiliar thing. So good point there by Andy. Let's go one more call. We'll take Brandon in the West End before we take a break. Brandon, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
It's me.
You there, Brandon?
It's Brian.
Brian, my mistake. What you got for me?
Okay, I just wanted to see why we was passing way too much to Steelers. We was passing like 32 times, and we only ran the ball like 12 times. I'm just wondering why we ain't getting Le'Veon Bell involved more in the running game.
Because they were down by 2 touchdowns in the second half. That's pretty easy. Mike Tomlin talked about that today. You throw 2 pick sixes, you give up a 5 or 6 minute drive at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and you're down by about 16, 17 points. So you got to throw the football. That's pretty much it. Running the ball that late in the game, but that kind of deficit is not going to work. You need to move the ball quickly. You need to do it without spending a lot of time off the clock. And what's the best way to do that? Everybody say it with me. Throwing the football. Pretty much how it works. Got to take a break. See you in a minute.